Broadcasting the boisterous part of the fastest game in the world. So strap on your lids and lace them up, look. You're listening to the Barn Chirpers Hockey Podcast. Take a lap. Clap it up, boys. Clap it up.
Clap it up.
Second full week here in the NHL.
Two teams pulled it out last night.
More on that in a sec. Robin Leonard jersey. Who knows whenever he's going to come back. You know, he would be a good fit for the Washington Capitals, as a matter of fact, because he's a solid goaltender. And Darcy Kuemper is not a solid goaltender, but that's a whole other story. Yes, I'm chirping you, Washington Capitals, and I'm chirping you, Darcy Kuemper, every single day of your life and my life, because we are the Barn Chirpers at Barn Chirpers Pod on Threads and on the Instagram, wherever you're listening or watching. If it's YouTube, hit that subscribe button, wherever that is on your screen. On some Spotify or any other podcast platform, iTunes, leave us a 5-star, quick little review. We would love that and appreciate it very much. Thank you.
And Joe, you could say that we're kind of rebels here, right? We kind of like rebel against.
We rebel
a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely that guy. I love to rebel. So yes, I'm that guy.
So a few weeks back, we talked about a really foolish mistake that the NHL made, banning. You know, we talked about the sweaters. We don't have to get into that, but they banned Pride tape, which is dumb.
Because in the rule book, it says any color tape can be used on your stick.
But 2 nights ago in Arizona?
Yep.
Somebody decided. Yes.
Stepped up. Just as we stick taps and claps to Travis Dermott for stepping up for the cause. And we said that a couple weeks ago, like, this ban is dumb and somebody just needs to step up because a change will happen. And you know what? It only took one guy, one person making a stand. And I do believe that there was a couple other guys that did the same, whether it was in practice. I just don't think it was talked about. Or maybe it was, I forget exactly. I don't know if he was, but this one at least was the most televised, essentially, right? This one was the most talked about. So stick taps to Travis Dermott for taking the stand. And now the NHL has rescinded that ban. So, which, again, should have never been a ban in the first place, because in the rule book, again, it says you can use any color tape that you want. So, I'm happy to say that here's the egg in your face, NHL, because you took a massive step backwards. So this isn't really a step forward for the league, I don't think. This is just more so like you're wrong. So, grow up, basically.
Grow up. And I mean, we don't have to get into like the nuts and bolts of this, but my beloved New Jersey Devils are playing your beloved Washington Capitals this evening. And it's Spanish Heritage Night or Hispanic.
You'll get at least 20 goals.
Actually, I don't even know, like, because I don't know. Lindgren's not playing and Kemp's isn't, and I forget the name of the guy. Whoever your third stringer is, he's getting the nod. There you go,
Clay Stevenson. Whoever that is.
But it's Hispanic Heritage Night in New Jersey, and that's one of those ones where it's like, you're not supposed to do that. And fans were tweeted out the image for the logo, and somebody tweeted back, "It's too bad we were robbed of seeing these sweaters." And New Jersey tweeted back, "Or did you?" So maybe my boys might be going out there on a limb tonight. So
that'd be great. I hope they do.
But again, we don't need
any opportunity to shove it in the league's face. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I mean, if anybody's going to do it, I believe it'll be my boys, because they've been very vocal, and I'm very happy that my guys are at the front line of that. But like I said, I didn't want to get too far into the weeds in this, but like, NHL, pie in the face, you were wrong. I don't want to say good job on rescinding it, but you did the right thing for once. So you fixed the wrong thing that you did a couple weeks ago.
Finally.
So here you go. But some teams, let's trot this first line out here. Some teams are not doing the wrong things, including the sweater you're wearing, the Vegas Golden Knights, man, what a wagon.
Well, as we talked about already, I mean, that's why I picked them to win the Stanley Cup again, because until you prove me wrong, I mean, or until somebody proves them wrong, they're the best team. They're the reigning champions, and they are going to continue to run over everybody. So, put money on them. They're going to win. That's kind of the way it's going right now. I mean, 7-0 is pretty awesome start to undefeated, to come off the Stanley Cup and then to be undefeated so far. Like, again, you're just kind of showing like, yeah, we can still, run through you guys. Now, I will say, have the teams that they've played been high competition? No, they really, I mean, Dallas is really the only team that they played throughout this 7 games that really means anything. They've played, the Kraken, the Sharks, the Ducks, then Dallas, Winnipeg, Chicago, and Philly. And now I will give Philly some props. Philly has been playing on a whole other level than what we picked in our preseason picks. But still, like, none of those teams besides Dallas really is a team worth anything, truly. But 7-0 is still, they're winning the games that they should win. And that comes down to it when we talk about, as the season gets longer, what teams, what games got away from you that you should have won, getting those valuable points, at some point in the season that matter later on. If you miss by 1 point, man, if only we would have beat Chicago that night, So getting these points early on in the season makes a massive difference.
Yeah, to your point, like, last night they were losing to Philadelphia when I went to bed at midnight, because and I want to tag this into the conversation whenever we finish talking about undefeated teams. Frozen Frenzy was last night when we're recording this. It was 2-1. Philly was keeping up. They were winning and most of the game. And Vegas did the Vegas thing, and to your point, winning the games that you're supposed to win. If it came down to, like you said, a 1-point race, and this loss again, they lost to Philly here, then you're going back, you're looking at Philly at the basement, and it's like, we couldn't beat them, and that's going to keep us from the playoffs, or that's going to keep us from a higher seed or whatever. But good teams gotta get out there on the ice and win. And Vegas, I saw it that first game against Seattle. It's just like you go out there and you look, and it's gross. It's like, how did this team that won the Stanley Cup somehow get better? It makes me very upset.
Yeah. Well, and the other interesting stat about Vegas is that only the Dallas game went into overtime. Every other game was won in regulation. 4-1, 4-1, 4-1, 5-3, 5-3, 3-2. So they're beating teams in regulation. So that's also a massive improvement. And then the last thing that I want to touch on about Vegas getting these ever important wins right off the bat. So 7 wins in a row. So they already have 14 points. And kind of, we've talked about this before, the threshold to get into the playoffs is generally like a 96-point mark to get in the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. So with Vegas already having 14 points, literally they only need to get 75 more points in – or excuse me, yeah. Hold on 1 second. So math. Wow. So why can't I do this right now?
They got 75 points or 75 games.
So
left.
If that 96-point threshold, yeah, there you go. Sorry. Yeah. So 75 games left. So really, they're on pace. Obviously, they're not going to win every single game, but they're on pace to get well over 100 points. So they're already setting themselves up for success, which, again, it's ever important right in the beginning. So it's like they have 75 games to get whatever that is, minus 14, 61 points. 75 games to get 61 points. You can pretty much phone them in to be in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I mean, just to further that point, they can play 500 hockey from here on out and probably still make it. And they won't. If you've watched any Vegas games this year, they won't go 500, but they could play 500 hockey and probably still make it at this point. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, like I said, that's why I picked them to win the Stanley Cup again, because until they prove me wrong, I'm gonna keep betting on them.
So another team still just getting it done out there in Colorado, the Colorado Avalanche. I I've not seen a ton of Avs games. I guess they just haven't been positioned in places for me to really see them like play. But this is completely contrasted versus what they did last year. Last year they started out slow. They took their time finding themselves, and then they were in the race with Vegas towards the end of the season. But this year they're, again, there's a lot of like close games that they should be winning. I think last night was like a 7-4, game, but
yeah, 7-4 stomping of the Islanders.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, kind of the same story. Colorado's played a little bit more competitive teams, LA, Carolina, and the Islanders. But same thing, they've only gone to one overtime, which is interesting because that was against San Jose. San Jose took them to overtime, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But same thing, they're beating these teams in regulation, 5-2, 4-1, 4-0, 6-4, 7-4. And the other interesting stat is Georgiev has started and played every single game. So he has 6 wins.
Wow.
And he's started every single game. So he is on a tear right now. I wish I would have picked him up on draft day because I had him last year, but he was not that guy last year. He was okay, but he wasn't, a 6-0 starter. You know what I mean? So yeah. Colorado's kind of doing the same thing there. They're beating teams in regulation and kind of like, we are going to impose on you and you have to figure it out or you don't, because we're going to literally beat you down to the ground.
So, that's 2 teams out in the West getting it done. And, I feel like it's a race to chase them, but somebody in the East is trying to keep pace. Last year's President's Cup winners, the Boston Bruins, kind of surprisingly out here to a 6-0 start there, Joe.
Yeah, we were both kind of in, I guess maybe indifferent or thinking that Boston was going to fall off. Kind of, pie in our face. We've kind of been wrong so far. Starting out, again, they're starting out well. So that's great, of course. Their competition, really, I would say only LA it was really a competitive team. The Preds too, but they've played Chicago twice, Anaheim, San Jose, Nashville, and those are their games. So like, are those super competitive teams? No, but again, to lose, like we talked about in the offseason, to lose what you did for the Bruins and again win these games that you're supposed to win, you're doing it right. They're still doing the 1A, 1B with Swayman and Ullmark. Those are arguably the 2 best goalies in the league right now. So they both have only let in, let's see, 1, 2. Ullmark's let in 3 goals. Swayman's let in 4 goals. So that's pretty good over 3 games apiece. So, yeah, kind of the same thing. Like, they're the team to beat in the East, really. You could talk about our Carolinas and, the Devs even, and all the other powerhouses. But right now, Boston's showing you like, okay, guess what we're still going to do? We're going to make the playoffs. Try us. Like, try and beat Swayman and Sway and Ullmark,
Like you said, though, they already have 12 points on the season. They pretty much, the ball's in there, or the puck is on their side of the ice. They can play a little over 500 hockey again, from here on out.
If the threshold is 96 points, like, Yeah. If the threshold is 96 points, like you have 75 games to get 61 more or whatever it is, or excuse me, yeah, whatever that number is, because math. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. A quick shout out before I ask you my question here. I want to give a quick shout out to the Detroit Red Wings. Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask you I'm going to ask you the question first. We're 2 weeks in. Who are some of the teams that you've enjoyed watching the most so far?
I mean, definitely the easy one is Detroit. Detroit has bounced out in front. And I was thinking about this, you know, when what you call so when Larkin over these last few years, before Mantha got traded to Washington, he had Mantha, and who was the other guy that was on the Wings before? Kubalik. I'm trying to think of guys that have been around Larkin, and he wasn't necessarily like producing, but now you get a guy like DeBrincat on his line, and Larkin is having an amazing season so far too. Is it sustainable? I don't know that to be certain, but man, again, this whole first line we've been talking about getting out to a great start. They're starting out great and setting themselves up for success as the season goes on. So getting all of these points right away, I mean, you're doing it right. You know what I mean? Also, Ville Husso is kind of playing top tier goaltending as well. Probably the best. I'd have to go back and look at his actual career stats, but probably the best that he's done, I think, at least in a while. And then, you take a team like Carolina, who has allowed 30 goals in 6 games. Detroit has scored more than 30 goals in their 6 games. They are firing the puck on net, and it's hitting the twine. So Detroit has been really, really fun to watch. I've seen a couple of their games. I've seen more Detroit games than anybody right now. What about you?
I want to echo that. Detroit is I told you guys, like, within the first 5 minutes of that first game against New Jersey, I was like, wow, Detroit is something this year. So yeah, the Wings are a blast to watch. And last night, the only other team probably I've watched as much, I watched the Habs. I'm really enjoying Habs hockey right now. They're playing with no fear. They're getting out there. They're messing with people's heads. They're hitting people. They're playing physical. They're playing aggressive. And it's not like top tier talent up there in Montreal. It's just a lot of young guys that are hungry. And, it may not be a recipe for them to like sneak into the playoffs this year, but if they can keep that core together, Montreal is going to be something to watch for in the next couple of years to come. But in the meantime, watch some Montreal Canadiens hockey. I am really enjoying watching them play.
Yeah, I mean, Caulfield is exciting. Suzuki is exciting. I wish Kirby Dach didn't get hurt.
Right.
But yeah, they got Wi-Fi. I love seeing Wi-Fi hit and beat the crap out of people. That's always super fun. The other one that I want to touch on being the Vancouver Canucks. They are starting out hot. They're 4-2, which is again the best start that they've had in at least 5 seasons. And they're beating good teams. They beat Edmonton twice. They beat Tampa Bay. They beat, and we've talked down on Florida, but Florida is still a pretty solid team. They beat Florida.
Mm-hmm.
They beat Nashville. Demko looks good, and even Casey DeSmith looks pretty good too in the backup role. So if they can keep this going, I hope they do, because it'll definitely be an interesting trade deadline if the Canucks are doing well, which they never are doing well. Will they be buyers at the deadline? I think that's a kind of a sort of rhetorical question we can ask the audience right now and keep it in the back of your head when we come around trade deadline. If the Canucks are doing well, we could see a massive trade happen that could make them, set up for a playoff push. So I hope they are doing well.
We also have to remember that Patty Kane's out there. Like, he hasn't signed yet. I mean, does that come into play? Like, if I mean, I doubt he goes
Patty
to
Kane.
Vancouver.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard rumblings that could be Buffalo, could be New York, the Rangers again. Heard Detroit. So it all just depends on what teams are looking like in the next month or so. I guess I saw some videos. He's been skating. So I would imagine November, December, maybe he makes a deal, signs a deal, but time will tell, I suppose.
I just wanted to give, before we move on to the 3 stars of the week, I wanted to give a little love to the teams that are not getting the wins, but are still playing really enjoyable hockey. The Sharks, of course, they're 0-5-1. They don't have much to show for it, but they are going out there and they're not getting blown out an awful lot. There's been a couple. The Anaheim Ducks also going out there, and last night
I was going to say I was just going to say the Sharks, they haven't won a game yet, but they're losing competitively, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're staying in games that really they have no reason to be in. So I'm going to run down. They lost 4-1 to Vegas, 2-1 to Colorado, which we touched on last week, 6-3 to Carolina, 3-1 to Boston, 5-1 Nashville, 3-1 Florida. I'd have to look at actual individual games, but I believe in every single one of those games, there was at least one empty net goal. So, they were in the game, they pulled the goalie to try to score a goal, and obviously you get the empty net. So regardless, though, they've stayed competitive, which is great for that squad because, again, we don't know what they're doing. We have no idea what the Sharks are. And to think about this too, Justin, they lost their biggest point getter in Erik Karlsson, and they're still at least getting on the board. At the very least, they're getting at least one goal a game. I think that's pretty huge for this team, considering, they don't really have a goal scorer. I mean, Hurdle, Couture, I don't even know if they've been in the lineup. I haven't paid much attention, but to lose your number one point scorer and to still at least get one goal up on the board, I think is pretty good for this team.
Yeah, and the same thing can be said for Anaheim. Like, I feel like they're in these games. Last night that's what I wanted to say. I can say for sure that the 3-1 loss to Florida definitely was an empty netter. The third goal was an empty netter because I was watching that. Anaheim was like inches from tying it up at the end of the game. Anaheim playing well. Columbus playing surprisingly well. Philly definitely out there, like we just mentioned at the beginning of the show, really putting on a show against Vegas earlier. So there's the Coyotes, like there's love to be spread around for some of these teams that are probably not going to be in the playoff conversation even a month from now, but get your eyes on some hockey. And to that point, I'll ask you this question, and then we'll get to our 3 stars. Frozen Frenzy, win or loss?
It's a win from a logistics point of view, getting enough referees to cover all 16 games. That's number one. Number two, I love the idea, but overall, I think it is a fail. Like, why wouldn't you make that be a Saturday? You could start at 1:00 like the NFL does and just have everybody start at the same time. I initially liked the idea of the staggering start times, but then I see the final 2 games of the day starting at 10:30 and 11 East Coast time. That's a fail. Like, do it on a Saturday, start everybody at 1 p.m. You're just, I don't know. They just continue to mess things up. They have great idea with the Frozen Frenzy, but why on a Tuesday? Like, your viewership is not going to be any better because every team is playing. It's a
Nope.
Tuesday. Nobody's going to stay up till 11 p.m. to watch a Vegas game. Nobody, not even Philly fans.
Nope.
So do it on a Saturday, or at the very least a Friday, and then have everybody start at 7 p.m. because then you'd at least get some viewers. So I like the idea. I hope they keep it, but man, like, you're dumb. Why? Start everybody at the same time, and it would make more sense for the Frozen Frenzy to actually have coverage. Because I tuned in at one point, and they were just showing the Dallas-Pittsburgh game for 10 minutes. Like, cool, but I could just switch over to that and actually watch it. So overall, it's a fail. I like the idea, but I think they messed up.
Yeah. I don't have much to add. It's cool that they had 16 games last night. It just, why is it on a Tuesday? Like, I don't want to keep hammering that home, but why is it on a Tuesday? Get that out of here. All right. So
why?
Just
and then you complain about viewership.
Yep. All right, Joe. So let's get into the 3 stars here for the week. I think we both agreed first star of the week is DeBrincat and Larkin on the top line of the Detroit Red Wings. It's just gross watching them.
I mean, Larkin, DeBrincat, 9 goals in 7 games. Is that sustainable for a full season? No, because, whatever that pace is, that's well over like 80 some goals that he's on pace for. And I believe his shooting percentage is somewhere around like 40% right now. So he'll come back down to earth a little bit, but again, just these two guys linking up, I think is obviously great for Detroit. And then on that same note, Larkin with 14 points in 7 games, he's having the start of basically this could be a career year for him if this keeps going that way. So good on Detroit. That definitely couldn't be passed up on having the first star of the week, because DeBrincat leads the league in points and goals right now, or in goals, and Larkin, if I'm not mistaken, leads the league in points, which is funny because neither of those two names are like superstar names that we usually would talk about.
Yeah. And just behind them is our second star of the week, good old Jackie Hughes. I wish they would have played more. They've got 4 games this week, but to the point from last week's show to when we're recording, Jack put 2 goals in against Sorokin, including the overtime winner against the Isles Friday, and last night has 4 natural assists, like 4 primary assists, I think is the technical term, where it was just him. Like, he was the first assist. 4 of the 5 goals last night was from Jack Hughes' stick. I think he's third in points, or at least he was third in points in the league. So Jack Hughes, second star of the week.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, you need him to get going for this Devs team to take off. I think he's the catalyst. That if he's having a great start, or obviously we're a little bit past the start now, but if he ends up getting on fire and getting in his rhythm, I think the team will follow.
And then, speaking of being on fire, you got the third star of the week.
Yeah, Jeff Skinner. So while Buffalo hasn't capitalized on winning all of their games, they're still kind of slow. But Jeff Skinner on a 3-game, 4-goal streak. Every time I see highlights, I'm seeing his name every single time. So really, I mean, that's great for the Buffalo squad. We love Buffalo. Really, everybody just needs to get going. Like, obviously Skinner is on his S right now. Tage hasn't really figured it out yet. Neither is Darlene. Those guys just need to get their legs underneath them. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here, but if they could get on the board like they were last year, then this Buffalo team will be scary. But Skinner is kind of dragging the team along by the coattails right now. So, but yeah, that third start of the week there, Jeff Skinner, 3-game, 4-goal streak.
There we go. Well, I think that wraps everything up, though, for the week. I think we have more Blink-182 to talk, ladies and gentlemen. So, want to take us out?
Well, do you want to do a real quick fantasy watch for the week? So,
shoot.
Justin,
Yeah.
I'll ask you: is there anybody you picked up this week that surprised you, or vice versa? You picked up somebody that you thought was going to be a surprise and they were a dud?
Wall, the goaltender in Toronto. I scooped him up Sunday as my last pick for last week, just because I knew Freddie was like day to day. So I was like, let me make sure I have a third keep. And he was already getting this. I knew he was going to get the start on Tuesday. So I was like, at least I'll go into the week knowing I have this start. And then he goes in and stands on his head and only lets 1 goal in. And I'm like, okay, that feels like a good pickup.
Yeah.
I'm hoping
they're playing the Caps. So.
Okay, but still, it's not like they weren't shooting. He still had to stop pucks. Ovi had 10 shots on his own. So he's, whatever. I got the dub.
His first 10 shots of the season.
Yeah, and there we go. So yeah, Wool, I think, feels like a good pickup right now.
Yeah, well, Sammy is day to day right now too, I think. So Wool might be the guy.
That would work for me. Because I drafted Flower, and it's basically been Gus's net so far this season. And I drafted Freddie, who's already missed like 2 starts because of injury. So I need a guy who's going to be in there every week.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Mine is actually kind of a tie because they only have 1 point difference in them. But I picked up Frank the Tank Vetrano from the Anaheim Ducks. Last week, he had 2 goals, 1 assist. I saw him on the score sheet a lot, so I picked him up. And I also picked up from the Red Wings, Joe Velino, and he has 4 goals, 1 assist over the last week, and he's been on the score sheet a lot. So it's a tie. I know I said 2 people, but it's a tie between those 2 guys. I picked both of them up, and I've been so far in, I guess, because I picked them both up on Monday, I think. So, I've only had 2-game sample size for that, but we'll see what happens. I also, I picked up a dud. Not really. I picked up Anton Forsberg last night, thinking because Buffalo was struggling, and then they put up a 6 spot and win the game. Like, of course they did. But I don't think Forsberg's an actual dud. Like, he's been solid, tendy. His goals against this year is 3, but his save percentage was over 9. So, it's fine, whatever.
I'll throw out one other name before we dip out. This guy isn't like lighting the lamp or nothing, but he's putting up about a point a game. Nick Schmaltz from Arizona. When you look at each individual, each individual game feels like, this guy isn't doing nothing. He's not taking shots. He's not getting me the periffs. But like I said, it's, he's either getting a score or an assist, a game. So, or at least, putting up 3 points a week. So you're getting a point a game from the guy. So he's one of those ones where, like, if you look at each game, it's like, why am I not dropping this guy? But then you look at the whole week and it's like, oh yeah, that's why.
That's why. Yeah, exactly. And funny enough, I have Toff on my lineup, and he hasn't done crap all year. And then he puts up a hattie last night, and I had him benched. So thanks a lot, Toff.
Dude, that happened to me last night too. Braden Point hasn't scored a goal all year. Braden Point finally puts one in the back of the net on my bench, and Alex Tuck hadn't scored a goal all year on my bench. Scores last night.
is what it is. It's a long
What do you
season. It's okay. I wanted to end on this. We didn't talk about it. I sent it in the Barn Chirpers DMs. You can DM us as well at Barn Chirpers Pod, or I don't know how Threads works, but can they DM on Threads? Can they thread us? I don't know how that works.
You can add us on Threads, or you can DM us on Instagram. It's the same account. It's just on Threads. So
okay, gotcha. I'm with you. But so Gretzky and Northland are partnering to help make hockey more affordable across North America. Northland will be selling a 3-pack of sticks starting at $99. And quote, I hope this will assist parents in finding an economical way for all boys and girls to achieve their dreams, end quote. From the great one, Wayne Gretzky. And that is awesome because sticks are like $300 a piece.
that's crazy. Yeah, that's
awesome. That is just put more sticks in people's hands to get them playing the greatest game in the world.
That's right. All right. Well, first of all, tip of the cap and
right.
Stick tap. Let's get on out of here, shall we?
Yeah, we shall. Again, at Barn Troopers Pod, like, subscribe on wherever you're watching or listening. Give us a 5-star. We would appreciate that. If you are listening to this and you are in the Norfolk, Virginia area, we will be attending the Norfolk Admirals versus the Worcester Railers. I think I said it right. This Friday. So come on out to the Scope Arena. You'll probably see us there wearing some sweaters, being loud and obnoxious naturally. So yeah, until next time, ladies and gentlemen, stick taps and sellies, boys. Clap it up.
Clap it up. Yeah.